Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to do a handover video on your Swift 580. I believe it's a PR, yeah, so 580 PR freestyle, based on the 2009 Fiat Ducato chassis, and the particular chassis is the 130 multi-jet. So I'm just going to show you through under the bonnet first. Over on the left hand side we've got the washer fluid, power steering fluid and engine coolant, brake fluid up the top, and then your engine oil gets topped up through this cap just here. As you can see, lovely and clean in there. Engine oil dipstick is the red topped one just down here at the front. Fiat 249, this is the paint code, the white colour that's on the cab through here. So 249 is your touch-up paints basically. 3.5 tons on the chassis plate here, and this is some air conditioning information just there. Inside the passenger door we've got the bonnet release handle just here. Jack and wheel brace kit is down here underneath the passenger seat, and the fuel filling point is just here behind this little cover. Don't worry, it's going to be cleaned very shortly. So we've got these two vents just here behind the habitation door. These are both to do with your fridge. So to take them out, you push these little tabs, this one to the right, this one to the left, and that will then allow you to take these both out. You shouldn't ever really need to get to the back of that, but that is the back of the fridge. As you can see, full size Fiamma F45 awning up there, all in really good condition, has been wound out and lubricated as part of the habitation check, and you've also got your awning light just there as well. So the locker at the very rear near side here, we've got loads of storage, a couple of bits and pieces that the previous owner had left in case you needed it, and this is a centre sort of rafter for the awning in here as well. Wastewater drain off point is just down here on the rear near side, and you can see I've got that open at the moment, draining any water out from the waste tank. Nothing really to show at the back. Rear offside we've got the boiler vent just here. It's a Truma Ultra Store boiler, and you've got the Ultra Heat space heater inside here as well, which has got a little flue that comes out of the top just here. So if you ever see any sort of, it's not smoke, but steam coming out through there, it means that your heater is on. This just here is your hookup point. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, really helpful to have that plugged in. It basically gives you access to any 240 volt appliances you might have inside, and also any your battery charger and things like that are going to be on as well. Gas locker just inside here. You've got space for two 6 kilo propane bottles in here. Anti-clockwise around to the left turns the bottle on, clockwise around to the right turns it off. If you find that you don't get any gas coming through to the inside of the van, you've got a little green button just here, which is basically a little purging button to allow the gas through to the vehicle. Freshwater filling point is just here. So any water that wants to go into the freshwater tank goes in just there. Toilet cassette locker is just in here. So you've got a freshwater flush on this one. So lift up on the orange tab, pull the cassette towards you, and then that gives you access to pulling the entire cassette out. The cap for the cassette is just there. Undoing that basically allows you to empty the entire cassette out. When you're emptying the cassette out, you should be holding the little orange button there down, basically a pressure release valve. Sorry, not today. But that allows the all of this here to come out nice and easily. I won't go into the details of what's normally in that, but you probably know that. Right, so I went a little bit quickly around on the outside today because it is absolutely you know, really windy outside, so I've no doubt it's probably making a racket on the video. So the cab itself on this particular vehicle is absolutely fantastic. So first of all, we've got the reversing camera. I will tuck this cable out of the way in a minute. But we've got the reversing camera from the center screen at the top just there. You've got your electric adjusting mirrors from this just here. You can lock and unlock the cab from here as well. You've then got the cruise control stalk on the left hand side of the steering wheel, and your indicators and lights on the left at the top. Washers and wipers are on the right hand stalk here. You've also got the 6-speed manual gearbox as opposed to the 5-speed, which is always really, really handy. You've got the air conditioning there as well, which, by the way, all of these things, you know, the 6-speed gearbox, cruise control, air conditioning, they're all optional extras that they would have had from standard. So always a really good sign of a vehicle that's probably been well kept is the extras that it's got. You've got a Pioneer single DIN head unit up here. Hazard warning lights. You can unlock and lock the cab from here again. You've got also another really, really nice extra to have is these center screens. So if you push these little bits out of the way, easier when you've got two hands available, you can pull this all the way across, and what it'll do, if you fiddle with it a little bit, again easy with two hands, there you go. If you push this all the way to the middle and do the same on the other side, these will meet in the middle, and basically there's a little magnet strip here, so these are your sort of your front blinds. All right, I'll just do that properly, there you go. These are your front blinds, like that. They meet up in the middle. You've also got the same ones here on the doors, so these will come across and meet across there as well. So these are complete blackout blinds for the cab. You've got them on all sides. So again, not a cheap extra whatsoever, and really, really handy to have that there. So I think that's about it for the cab, really. I don't think there's really much else to sort of run through. So please ignore, it's a little bit of a mess in here at the moment. We've just literally done the habitation check on it, so that'll be the reason why. But first thing I'm going to run you through is going to be the control panel up here above the habitation door. So you've got, as you can probably tell, a main on and off switch just here. You've then got this little tick button. So this little tick button will run you through the various levels. So you've got fresh and waste water, leisure and engine battery, ampage that's being drawn from the leisure battery, and that's it. So that's your levels. I will just mention, when you have a little look on here, you've really got, I mean, I know it's obviously, you can see that it says full on the waste. We know that the waste tank isn't full because we've just seen that it's completely empty. These waste tank level indicators are very much temperamental, and I'm not just saying that, they really are. What happens is you've basically got prongs inside the tank. There'll be 4 prongs, well, or more, but basically these prongs, what happens is they get corroded, and it senses that there's water on it when there isn't. So the reason that's saying full is because that very, very top prong that would normally get touched by the water when it's full is corroded, and it's coming up saying that it's full. So the wastewater, the way that I would recommend sort of doing it, if you fill the freshwater tank all the way up when you get to your campsite, by the time that you start running down on the fresh tank, you know that the waste tank's full, because the fresh and the waste tank should be roughly the same size. So if you think of it that way, if you do get this issue in the future again, where it's just saying full all the time, then, you know, just basically empty it out whenever you need to. You'll know about it. So that is your levels from the little tick switch here in the middle. This button down here, so what it does is it basically, if you have the electric hookup plugged in, what it will do is it will automatically start charging up your leisure battery, which is exactly what you want it to do. All right, so all the time that you're hooked up, you really want it to be charging up the leisure, because if we go into the back end of the vehicle and we start using the lights and we start using the fan and the ignitions and the water pump, that's going to be being drawn from the leisure battery. All right, so the battery we want to be being charged up is the leisure. But if in this case, because we've got a nice quality conversion, if you want to charge the engine battery instead, so, you know, only reason you would ever really want to do that is if you came out to the vehicle and you realised the engine battery was flat, you did have access to a hookup cable, you could switch over, press this button just here, and what happens is it starts sending power to the engine battery instead of the Leisure. Now, the only thing that you need to sort of be aware of with that is that if you forget that you've got that switched on, I mean, I know there's a big red light, so hopefully you won't. What also happens when you press that button is that the power that is sent to, you know, things like your lights and like I said, the pump and all that sort of stuff, will then be being drawn from the engine battery instead. So what it does is it basically switches the battery, you know, the battery that's powering things from the Leisure to the engine, as well as sending the 240 volt power to the engine battery. So, you know, it's really important. Basically, only ever press this button here if you want to charge the engine battery up for a little bit, and then make sure to switch it off again once you've finished. All right. On the left hand side, this is the sort of row of switches here to turn things on and off, if you like. So at the very top there, you can see we've got the water pump switch that is turned on at the moment. The pump itself isn't running, even though we've got it switched on. And the reason for that is that we're up to pressure. Okay, so in this particular vehicle, the pump switch is turned on, the pump isn't running. That means all pressurized, no leaks, and everything's good to go. So it's really important with a motorhome that's got a boiler like this one. So if we have a little look under here, I probably should have been better prepared for this. If I have a little look under here quickly, lift this seat up because I know that's where the boiler is. Oh, sort that out in a minute. So under here, we've got the locker for the boiler. Now what we've got, the water pump is just here as well, by the way. But what we've got is a little yellow tab down there. Now this yellow tab is really important because that's the boiler drain off point. So any water that's inside this boiler right now, even though, you know, I know it's absolutely full, so we've got about 10 litres of water, does tell you there. All of that water at the moment is going to be being kept inside of it because that's laying down flat. If I lifted that upright, so it's facing us right now, all the water inside that boiler would drain out onto the floor. So that's essentially where you drain the water out in the winter. That's your winterizing drain off point for the boiler. So the reason I have to sort of explain that to you is because what you need to know is that if you come into the vehicle and you want to use the boiler, you want to get the water hot and all that sort of thing, you absolutely have to do this first. So turn the pump on, come over to the tap, pull the water through on the cold side. Got no air coming out through there, that's perfect. And then over to the hot. A little bit of air coming through, but not very much. And that's all good again. Turn it off, make sure the pump turns itself off. And that's perfect. That's absolutely pressurized now. So I know for an absolute fact that the boiler is full of water. So if I pull the tap just then with the pump on and we got nothing but air coming through the tap here on the hot side, it means that the boiler isn't quite full yet and you need to wait for it to start coming through just like it was there. As soon as it starts coming through like that and you turn the tap off and the pump turns itself off, you're good to go. But the reason that's important is if you try and light the boiler up and get the water hot when there's either not enough water in it or there's no water in it at all, it will just sort of overheat. All right, you'll get overheating issues and you'll be forking up for a new boiler basically. So really important that you do that. And I always try to run through that and make sure that people know that as sort of like the first thing. Right, we've got at the bottom here a main on and off switch for the lights inside. Okay, so we should now be able to use, I'll press that button again, the lights inside the vehicle. There you go. All right, so now that I've done that, we can then go through and we can turn each individual light on that we want to be on. Okay, so there's various lights all around the vehicle. They've all got their own switches and bits and pieces. But yeah, so that's the main lights on and off switch just there. The light above our head is different. That works on this switch just here because that's our entry light. And then we've got the light up here, which is the awning light. Okay, so the one here that's got a little nighttime symbol on it is our awning light. All right, so that is essentially all of your lights are on the left-hand side here and the water pump at the top. Always good practice as well, if you're not actually physically using the water pump, make sure that you switch that off. Now, fingers crossed, you would be able to hear the pump if it does kick in, but I have had it in the past where the pump just sort of runs on and runs on, and it will eventually burn out. So if you're not using it, just turn the switch off just in case. Right, in the door here, you have got a blind in there as well, nicely tucked away, just like in the cab. Step switch from there. Right, you've got access to the freshwater tank from this little cover down here. There is a screw in it at the moment. So basically you just take that screw out and that'll give you access to the fresh tank and the freshwater drain off point. So I'm just going to run you through the appliances now. So you've got here a Thetford 3-way fridge. All right, so you've basically got, super easy to use these ones, main on and off switch, and then it will just choose what it needs to do. All right, so this is a good example straight away. Right, so what we've got, automatically it's chosen mains. All right, now it's made a mistake by doing that because I haven't got the mains plugged in. So in this case, what we do is press this button here on the left and select manually the correct energy, which at the moment is gas. So just by doing that, just literally what I've done there, I've chosen gas because I haven't got the engine running and I also haven't got the hookup plugged in. I do have the gas switched on so we can use it on gas. All right. If, for example, we had the engine running, I could select 12 volt, which is the little battery symbol. And if we have the electric hookup plugged in, I can select the mains. All right. So it's giving us a couple of fault codes. It's giving us fault code number 8 because the hookup's not plugged in. And as I say, it's giving us another fault code there because the engine's not running. So the sort of way that these fridges are supposed to work is you either get the fridge cold first on gas or mains electric. And it will take a good couple of hours to actually get properly cold. But you have to pre-cool them on either one of those two. And then select 12 volt, the battery symbol, just for when you're driving. And the reason that's important is because the 12 volt symbol there, the 12 volt doesn't really get the fridge cold by itself. It only really retains whatever temperature you've already put inside of it as you drive. So, you know, you have to have the 12 volt function because you can't have the gas on when you're driving. You have to switch it off. And you can't have a hookup plugged in when you're driving, obviously, either. So it's the only way to keep the fridge cold as you're moving. So I'll just leave that on for a minute, just, you know, get it cold. You have got the original sort of draining board for up the top there in this lower cupboard, and a little sort of cutlery drawer there as well. A couple of mains power sockets just there underneath the cupboard up here. Now, because this is a British vehicle, nearly everything in this whole van works on gas or electric. So that goes for the cooker, the fridge, the heating system. So, you know, essentially everything. Yeah. Right. So I'm going to show you through. I don't tend to spend much time on these cookers because they are pretty straightforward, really. But what you've essentially got is you've got 3 burners on the top. So they are gas burners. So simple as ignition switch and pushing in on the valve, just like any household cooker. Easy as that. You have also got the electric ring on here as well. As I say, it's a British vehicle. They do tend to have that sort of stuff. So your electric ring there will work when the hookup's plugged in, and that's from this left-hand dial here, 1 through the 6. We've then got the grill underneath here. This is got a grill pan in there at the moment. That's the original one. So push in and round to the left on this one here with the igniter. Not quite coming through just yet. I actually think that igniter is in the wrong place. Let me just try that. All right, let's try that. There you go. Okay, so easy as that with the grill. Just press and hold on that just for a few seconds to make sure that's definitely all lit. Now I've let go of it. So that's how you use the grill. All I did there, just so you know, is the actual igniter for the grill. It needs to be aiming down a little bit like it is now, so that, if I just turn that off, the lower part of the grill there, I don't know if you can see that. So you see where the little holes are coming out, that's where the gas actually comes through. But to actually light the flame up, it needs to hit the bottom part like it is now. Anyway, that's boring sort of stuff that I do. So yeah, making sure that's on that lower part. That will light up every time now. So that's the grill. Just I thought I'd show you that just in case that ever moves up again in the future. Oven is the one on the left just here. There we go. So that is gas as well. And then we can close that up. So the gas ovens are a little bit strange in the way that they work. So you've got a thermocouple on every gas appliance in the whole vehicle, but the thermocouples on the ovens work slightly differently, where they will not adjust the size of the flame until it gets to a certain temperature. So at the moment I'm doing this, and you can see there absolutely nothing is happening to that flame. And so if we left it here on gas mark 4, until it starts to get up to that sort of temperature, it will not adjust. All right, just so that you know, just in case you think that's not working, it is. It's just that it takes a long time to get going. Okie dokie, so underneath the oven here, we've got this little diagram. This is because we've got the gas isolators in here. So we've got the green and the blue one. So the green one is for the hob and the oven, and the blue one's for the fridge. There's probably another one of those in this wardrobe here, which I'll show you in just a minute. But that's the oven and cooker and everything there. So this is your heater. All right, this is the heating for this particular vehicle. So these Trumatic or Truma Ultra Heats are incredibly simple and really, really reliable, which is why I like them so much. Very, very rarely do we have to do anything with these, apart from maybe sort of taking the cover off here and cleaning out behind them for dust and things. But other than that, very, very reliable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it off for the minute, so I can show you how it works from start to finish. First things first, this is a gas and 240 volt heater. So the gas side of it is all just here on this one little dial, nothing else. This is how you use it on the gas, just this here. And the mains side of it is a switch up there, which I'll run you through in a minute. All right, but we'll forget about that for now. On the left hand side, we've got this here, which is your fan. So because this is blown air heating, we've got these little circular beige vents around the vehicle, and that is where our fan is pumping around that hot air to. Okay, so to turn the fan on and off, you've got off in the middle just here and on to the left, and then you've got a temperature, a speed setting, basically 1 through to 5. So that's just the fan, right? If you want to light this heater up, really simple what you do. So you've got a gas valve just here. So you twist this round to sort of 2 or 3. Probably can't see it, but the igniter is going in there now. Push down on this. Flame lights up and the igniter stops. So that's your pilot flame there. And then all you need to do is lift up and twist it around. If you watch what happens when I twist it around, main flames kicked in, and it stayed on. So sometimes when it's really cold outside, you'll find that it's a little bit difficult to get that flame to stay on. So you'll turn it around from 2 or 3, so from the pilot flame to the main flame, and sometimes the main flame will kick in and then it will die out. So all you have to do with that situation is, if it dies out, push back down again on here, because the igniter will start up again, light it back up on the pilot flame and lift back up. So then it should stay on. But you can just do that as many times as it takes to warm itself up, and then it will just stay on fine. But just make sure that gas there stays on. You should know about it. If it does go out, as I say, the igniter will start clicking over again. But yeah, that's how you use it on gas. Really, really easy. So turn it off, all the way back round to the left to 0, and just have a little look in there and make sure that your gas flame's gone out, which it has. I always advise as well, leave that fan going for a minute once you've turned the gas flame off, because the amount of heat that comes out of these things when there's no fan on is unbelievable. And that's not so much an issue for us, but any of these little wooden veneers and things around the heater will start to warp and start to bubble up if you don't allow it to sort of pump the heat around to the vents, rather than so if you just turn this straight off without the fan on, the heat will just come up here and it will start to kind of bow this up. So just a little tip really, you don't even have to do that, but it will just save this from going wrong in the future. So in the wardrobe, we've got carpets and some infill cushions in there. This cover in the corner is covering up the vent or the flue for this heater. All right, so if you're ever wondering what that is and why it's covered up in metal, it's because you don't want to touch that, because it'll be seriously hot. This little bit on the right hand side is just going to be for wiring, so that's just covering up a load of wires. So you've got your full-sized standalone table here on the left hand side in the wardrobe, and as I say, you've got your carpets and infill cushions. So as I mentioned before, we've got a couple more gas isolator valves here. So you've got the red one, which is the water heater, and the white one, which I can only assume white space heater. Yeah, there you go. All right, so they're both on at the moment, but that's why we've got that little bit open for you to see at the moment. Just put that back down in there. I might have to do that in a minute when I've got 2 hands available. Oh no, there we go. Okay, so the other way that you use that heater, as I said, is on the mains electric. And it's as simple as this. So these 2 dials up here on the right hand side, you've got the one at the top which says Ultra Store, and the one at the bottom that says Ultra Heat. So Ultra Heat is, as I said, that's the name of this space heater down here. So if you want to use that space heater on mains, assuming that you've got the hookup plugged in, obviously, you can choose 500, 1000 or 2000, and that's the number of watts that the element's going to be using. So each one of those numbers will correlate to an amount of amps. All right, and this might be seriously boring if you're not really interested in the sort of technical side of it, but 500 watts is going to be equal to about 2.5 amps. All right, roughly. 1000 is going to be about 4.5, and 2000 is about 8 amps. So if, for example, you were on a campsite and you were plugged into a mains hookup that you had a 10 amp post that you were plugged into, for example, if you switch this Ultra Heat symbol here up to 2000, you're already immediately using 8 of your 10 amps. All right. So the other things you've got to think of is the battery charger. So that'll be on straight away. So that's going to be about 1 amp probably. If you use the fridge on the mains, that's going to be about 1 amp as well. So then, you know, pretty quickly, you're going to be pretty well at the sort of limit to your post. And all that will happen if you do overload it is that it will trip the post outside. But you don't really want that to be happening. So in my opinion, in this particular case, I would use this heater on 500 or 1000, or, you know, it does help if you can, I would always recommend using it on gas, because when you don't use these things on gas for a long time, they do get a little bit smelly and a bit dusty. But yeah, if you are going to use it on the mains, as I say, just use it on 500 or 1000. Otherwise, you're going to be running pretty close to your limit on the campsites. The one above it, Ultra Store, this is how you use the boiler. So this is how you light the boiler up on gas. All you have to do is select your temperature. So that's 30 all the way through to 70. And then switch it on or off. So twist it around on the outside. Boiler's just lit straight up. And we've got it set to 60 degrees. So as soon as that water inside the boiler gets to 60, it will switch itself off. And it will switch itself on and off all day long if you want it to keep it at that temperature. All right, so that is how you use the boiler. Easy as that. I'm just going to have a little check to see something. Have a look behind these. Nope. I was just wondering if the boiler worked on mains as well. I'll just have a little look down here first before I say it doesn't. So, where does that cable go to? Might just be being silly here now, I don't know. Let me just have a look under this other seat. I will put all this back in just a minute. Okay, yes it does. Right, so I didn't want to say boiler works on mains if it didn't, but it does, so that's always good. Right, so down underneath this seat, we've got a couple of things I need to show you actually. I'm glad I've lifted this up. Just going to prop this up with something. Again, I should definitely have been better prepared for this. Right, that'll do. Okay, so in this cupboard down here, so this is underneath the offside rear settee basically. We've got your 12 volt fuses, so this is your fuse board for the motorhome basically, and it does tell you what each one of those does. Okay, the little sticker there that says repaired and upgraded by Applejack Engineering is always a good sign. So if ever we need any electrical bits and pieces fixing, Applejack Engineering is the place that it has to go to. And it doesn't mean that there's been a big issue, it just means that at some point this has been sort of repaired or upgraded, so that you shouldn't get any issues with it in the future. Down here is your trip switches and a couple of switches down here that I need to explain to you. So this is a more modern or a different version of the Sergeant unit. Okay, so some of these vehicles like Auto Trails will use Sergeant units. This is the I never know how to pronounce it, but you can see it. You can see it there. That's this version of it. So you've got the trip switches here. This is mains trip switches and your main RCD on the left hand side, and you've also got 3 240 volt switches. So on the left we've got a space heater. Now that can be left on because all that does is power the space heater dial up there, which I ran you through a minute ago. The one in the middle is water heater, and the reason that's switched off is because that will start heating the water up as soon as you switch that switch on. So when you're not using the hot water, that has to be turned off. And the one on the right is also kept on because that's your battery charger isolator. So that basically just turns the battery charger on as soon as you start, plugging in the hookup. So that one can stay on, the space heater one can stay on, but the water heater one is for only when you're using it. If you want to heat the water up on the mains, only use that switch then. We've then got in this cupboard down here the solar controller. So that is a duo controller, and I can see there that it is wired up to both engine and leisure batteries. So that's always really handy. You've got a solar meter there as well. This thing here is the back of the hookup inlet. So this is the hookup point basically from the inside. Black box next door to it is your mains charger. So this is the bit that basically charges up the leisure battery or the engine if you press the button that I showed you on the control panel. And we've got the leisure battery down here underneath this cover. So I'm glad I opened this up because it's quite an important cupboard in the end. But yeah, so that's it. I'll put all this back together now. So I think I have covered everything really. I don't think there's anything I've missed out apart from, yes I do, apart from the bathroom. God, sorry. Right, so bathroom, they're always really simple. I don't really go through much, to be fair. In this particular case, I'm going to show you two things. So we've got here the Thetford toilet. So this lid will move around wherever you want it to, wherever is easiest. Blue button on the top. If I turn the water pump switch on, I reckon. There you go. So the blue button at the top, as long as you've got the water pump turned on, will pump around your flush fluid. And then you've got a grey handle on the front. Push it to the right, and that drains into the cassette. Pull the handle back, closes that flap back over. And that is how you use the toilet. Super easy. Only other bit I'm going to run you through is this. So on these particular Swifts, you've got this clever little cap here, or catch, that then allows you to pull this out. Once you've got this part here, it's a bit awkward to show you just with one hand, but you've also got this little bit on the door which comes over and meets up. So that when you've got this door shut, that makes your shower compartment. So it's a lot simpler when you're here in person and you can actually see it, but that works really well as your shower compartment there. This pulls out and meets up in here and makes a shower head. So that is that. Right, so now I think I've shown you everything. Sorry about that. I'll put all this back together now, and if there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.